Okay, guys, last night when I ended, I remembered that I forgot to show you how to put the darker stripes on the green part of the watermelon rind. So this is Laurel Green G362. I haven't used it since last night, so I am going to mix that up really well. Add a couple of drops of the GM 300 glass medium just to loosen that up a little bit. And so what we're going to do is just apply this over the top of the frit that we have on the melon. Always dampen your brush, blot it on a paper towel. And then I'm just going to pick up some of this color. And I'm going to have enough on here that it'll just kind of drip down. And I'm going to create just a little spot that will be like a stripe. Okay, so let's put another one here. So basically you're just adding enamel color on top of that frit to create the illusion of a stripe. So I forgot, I said I was going to show you that at the end and totally forgot about it. So I wanted to make sure you understood that part. Okay, and I'm going to add a little bit to this. You do, when you get ready to load it in the kiln, just make sure you're taking a brush that's completely dry and you put the frit, kind of scoop it or sweep it back to where it needs to be. Okay, but now you can see that we have those stripes on there. Okay, so I'm going to move this one out of the way. And then I told you could like sprinkle some of the red frit. You could get some black fine frit and you could sprinkle it in the background, and that would give you kind of an illusion of little specks. And they could even fall on top of the leaves. And that's probably what I'll do. I don't have any of that frit out here, but I will do that before I fire it. Now this is the one that I was painting during the live. And so I'm going to go ahead and do the frit on this just because I can. So I'm using the blue Elmer's glue. I've put some in a cup here. And what I'm going to do is get a toothpick and just add. I'm going to put the green on first out here, just like I did on the other one. And so I'm just going to apply a thin coat of that glue to the area. And then this is Amazon Green Opal, and this is a medium. And I've got a little tool here. It's just a plastic little scoop. It's got two ends, one with a little more area and then one without. So you can just take and scoop that on. You could just drop it on with your fingers. Just make sure you keep it all where it's supposed to be. So you can kind of go along here. So as long as I've only got the glue on the one area, it'll only stay in that section, okay? So you can, and you may have a different tool that works for you. That's fine. This is just something I picked up somewhere. It's almost like a pipette, but it's got a smaller scoop on one end and a larger scoop on the other end. And then you can also use a brush. And like I said, this brush is completely dry. You don't want something that's got moisture or product in it. You don't want it wet, because if you touch your black outline with a wet brush, then you're going to loosen that color up and it's going to move it on you. Okay. So in case you missed last night, there's two parts to the video because we got kicked off. And then this would be a third part, but I just wanted to make sure you understood how to put that color on top of the frit. So you do one section at a time, and then I will come back and do the white in the smaller area, and then the red in the larger. Now, last night I took and put vermilion enamel down first, and then while it was wet, I did a small section at a time, and I sprinkled the red frit on there to give a different look. So on this particular one, I'm just going to do the red frit only. That way you have both examples. The instructions to this is called Watermelon Surprise Glass, and it was like an 8-inch dish. And what I did was, for the live, was enlarge this pattern so that it would make it easier for you to see what I was doing. Those leaves and things were pretty small in the other one, and I didn't want you to struggle to see how to blend and do the color application. So I just made this larger, and then you know what? This really needs a little area here that I didn't have a line on my pattern, but I'm just going to fill it in with some of the frit. I'm not going to worry about the line because the frit's pretty much going to cover a lot of that. So if you're just seeing this for the first time and you're not familiar, I am Paula McCoy, owner of Colors for Earth, and I do Tuesday nights at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. I do a live here on my personal page. It also is broadcast to YouTube most of the time, simultaneously, so you can watch from either. We have drawings for prizes, whether it's a piece that I'm creating or product, DVDs, brushes. So every other Tuesday I do glass, and the other Tuesday I do ceramics, or I also pop in and do some brush stroke and brush information. We have ceramic colors, we have the glass enamels, and we also have Paula Brush Company. So we try to cover all of those on the live to give you more information. These will always be on YouTube. You can find them on my personal page also in the videos, but YouTube will be easier. And depending on what the product is that I'm showing, it'll be on a playlist. That if it's enamels, it'll be on the enamel playlist. If it's on ceramics, it'll be on that one. So whatever the project pertains to, I will put them on those playlists. Be sure and click and subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications every time I go live. And on my personal page, a couple of days before I do the live, I send out a little notification, and all you have to do is click on the Get Reminder, and it will remind you that I'm going live. I think it's like 15 or 20 minutes ahead of time. And if you miss it, all you got to do, if you've clicked on that reminder, all you've got to do is go back and click on it again, and it says Watch Now. And so even if you miss us live, you can still go back and watch all of that. So these are just free lessons just to kind of get you familiar with the product. It spawns a lot of questions so that and you can ask questions on the chat, and then my husband reads those questions to me and we answer those live. So that way we try to get as much information to you as possible. And the whole point of this is to have you succeed I have a little gnat that decides he wants, and I just squished him. He'll burn off in the kiln. Who would have thought? Oh my goodness. Anyway, it's just to help educate you, get you familiar, and it also allows you to ask those questions while I'm live and get the answers to your questions. So that's kind of nice for you guys. All right. All right. So again, that was Amazon green, and I'm using 96 COE. Remember, your base glass needs to be the same COE as your frit. If you're using frit, you could just do these in your enamel colors. You wouldn't have to use frit at all. All right. So now I'm going to see if I can do this without dragging too much of the green over. Put some of the glue. If you weren't on last night, I wouldn't recommend using hairspray, and definitely do not use super glue. It doesn't react well with the enamels. I have done hairspray, the liquid hairspray that you put in, and we just put it in one of our little, I don't have one in front of me, but we put it in our piping bottle with the tip and just squirt it on. I've done it on larger pieces, but I have not tried it on anything this small as far as close to the enamel colors. So I would just start with the glue. Someone asked about the aloe, whether they could use aloe gel. And, you know, I have not used it, but logic tells me it should work. It would be similar to the glue. It's going to burn off at a lower temperature no matter what. So, okay, so for this section, we're going to put an opal white. This happens to be one that I have had forever. And it was back when, I don't know that they still even do it. It's White Dove. It's a fine, and it was put out by CPI, Creative Paradise at the time. So I like to just put a little bit in my lid. And then once again, use your tool. And it's okay if it goes on top of that line. I mean, the line is there to basically the outline of that area to create a dam to put your color, or in this case, frit. So I know a lot of them last night said I would have never thought to combine the frit and color. And so I'm glad I did the piece. Someone suggested this piece. That way you know you can do that. I mean, don't limit yourself. Remember, your imagination is your limitation. So get out of the box and think about different ways. I mean, if you're currently doing a lot of frit stuff and you're wanting to maybe add your glass enamels to your work, this would be a fun way to add it in. So just remember, you can just scoop that or brush that back in place. And it's not like the watermelon has a straight line. So if some of this is out of bounds, so to speak, it's not a big deal. Don't freak out about it. Okay, so then we're going to do red on the other area. Now, the red area is fairly large. I'm not going to try to put down glue for all of that. Let me put this white back up. So again, that was fine White Dove, or just fine white frit. So the red, I'm just going to sprinkle it on there, and then, like I said, I'm not going to try to do the glue. I guess I could on the larger areas. So it'll hold some of it in there, but I'm not real worried about it. It's so large of an area. And then just make sure you take a brush to the kiln with you and brush it off any of your other areas. that you don't want it. But this will at least attach some of it in place. I'm just going to smear some on in that background. Okay. Larger areas, we have to get some more glue out. Okay, good enough. Moving on. Okay, so then just take your red, and I forgot to show you what red this was. This is medium cherry red. So it's a transparent. You could use opal if you want. It's your piece. So test, I mean, you can always do a test firing if see if you like it. Like I said, on the other one, I put down vermilion color, G310 vermilion. And while it was wet, I just took my fingers and just kind of sprinkled on top of the wet color, okay, is how I did that. So that's an option. Or if you don't want to touch the glass with your hands because of getting cut, then just use some type of a tool or a plastic spoon, anything that's going to aid you in putting it on there. And remember, I'll brush off everything that's not where it's supposed to be. You can always, somebody, I can't remember when and where, you can take a straw and cut the end of it at an angle and make yourself a little scoop. It works extremely well. I did that for a long time. And it can be on top of those seeds a little bit too. So don't freak out about that. Because remember, when you're looking at a real watermelon, those seeds, some of them, you only see parts of it, and the rest is down in the melon. Okay. Need a little bit more on that edge there. So I'm going to even just scoop some up on my brush here. So I wanted it a little heavier in that area. Like I said, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect by any means. Just make sure you do open those up and let the seeds kind of show through where they are. And that'll push that frit and build it up in some other areas when you do that. It tends to want to stick to the hairs on my brush. So the other thing that I'll show you real quick is, and then I can clean all this up when I get out to the kiln. Yeah, just a little bit more right there. So last night I was showing the detailing when the color, the enamels were wet, and it's some areas were kind of light. So what I was using was color concentrate, CC 101 cobalt black. Make sure you shake those concentrates. These are our CC enhancers, we call them. Just put a little dot out, and then with some water, And I like using the 3600 number 2 liner. And I'll just take a little bit of water on my brush and thin that, and then coat the hairs. Make sure you got a nice point. And then I can come in here and I can add a stronger line if I want that there. Okay. So it will look a little bit darker. This is a turn back, and it was wet last night, so I did not take care of it. You can also go through and touch up any lines that you've went over. We used the black outline, the G0331, to do this with as far as the outline. So I can come in here and just add on top of that if my enamels went over on top of it. So if I've lost my outline and you need a way to put it back, it's better to put it back like this than it is to don't put the outline back on top of it, because it'll be too heavy and it'll tend to roll, I call it. So I'm just kind of looking around to see if there's any areas where I completely lost the outline. So maybe just a little bit in here. I also came in and added my stamens and detail. That one looks okay. So here I got a little bit of the enamel on top of the line, so I can just go back in and add that line. Now I do need to add the detail on this flower because it was not completely dry. So I'm just going to stay up on the tippy toe. Gotta get more on my brush. I'm anchoring on top of an enamel that's dry because I don't want my fingerprints. So I'm pulling from the center of that flower out. Usually I pull towards myself, but I'm trying not to turn this and touch it any more than I have to. Now, the CC that I'm using, the 101, any CCs are, depending on how much they're diluted, they will leave a matte finish on your enamels or on the glass. So be aware of that. You do need to, if you don't want the matte finish, then what you do is sift over it with clear powdered frit. And this is Relief Motif, so this has a buildup. It's raised. It's like probably a 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to add a highlight, and then I'm going to just add some like detail, seedy type. I'm just touching the tip of the brush there. Okay. All right, let's see if there's anything else. I think they're okay. Maybe a little bit right here. Okay, so I will clean up the frit. This is done on a 6mm clear. So it's a double thick piece. So I will not be adding anything to the background. I'm not going to add another piece of glass to it. So what I did was just grab a smaller detailed brush. And like I said, it's okay if some of that is on top of those seeds. And I'm not going to spend too much more time with this because it's going to move between now and when I get it to the kiln, and I'll have to just, once I put it on the shelf, I'll end up doing the same thing. I'm not going to sift any clear over the top of this because I want you to be able to see it in the matte finish. And then I could always go back and refire it if I wanted to, as long as you're not going to have liquid touching the piece like soup, then I wouldn't worry about it if it's matte or shiny, unless you just do not like matte. But it gives a nice contrast between the different areas, so think about that before you make your decision. Okay. All right, guys. I just wanted to make sure you saw that, knew how to do that for those of you that are doing the project. And that's all for now. Have a good evening.